let's start it, Mr. Rakesh Kumar, with the permission.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
please.
morning, all the panelists, Mr. Joravar Kalra, Ms. Pushpa Bector, Mr. Anurag Katriyar, Mr. A.D. Singh, Mr. Varun Tulli, Mr. Riaz Ablani, friends in the audience, my member of the advisory board of the India International Hospitality Expo, my colleague, Mr. Hari Dadu, Sarish Bhattacharya, and also I must thank the audience for registering in the record numbers for the fourth webinar in the IHE 2020 series. An employer of more than 7 million people, the restaurant sector may be down, but it is certainly not out. It may seem like a strange statement to make about a business that has not been in business for over 2 months. But look at the way restaurants in Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, and Kolkata are responding to the call of the National Restaurant Association of India, NRI, and have cooked and served more than 2 million meals to poor and needy people rendered jobless and financially desperate by the nationwide lockdown. The way this noble work is progressing, it may not be very long before NRI announces that it has crossed the target of 5 million meals it has set for itself. Adversely, sometimes brings out the best in people. The NRI, under the leadership of Mr. Anurag, who is present with us, has shown that you can be noble even when you are with your back to the wall as you confront the severest crisis of our life. It is with a great sense of honor that I say I am privileged to have with me a very charming panel of restaurant sector leaders, Mr. Joravar Kalra, Ms. Pushpa Bector, Mr. A.D. Singh, Mr. Riaz Amlani, and Mr. Varun Tulli, who are also engaged in the task of the providing humanitarian relief to those most in the need of our help. This unforgettable gesture, however, cannot hide the sad truth that the restaurant sector, which was already fighting an array of regulatory obstacles before the COVID-19 pandemic brought it to a paralyzing halt, is up against the challenges far bigger than establishment costs and cash flow issues. The grimmest of these challenges is to reclaim the confidence of the patrons and get them to eat out. How long will malls and restaurants take to regain the footfall they have lost? These are all the issues that are going to be discussed today in our panel discussions. We have thus far had 3 instructive and informative webinars, which are being conducted under the banner of the India International Hospitality Expo, ISG 2020, India's largest and most attended B2B hospitality show organized by the India Expo Mart Limited, Greater Noida. I'm sure the one ahead will be another blockbuster exchange of a new generation of ideas, and it will, I hope, provide the clarity of direction and ideas that the restaurant business so badly needs in its worst hour. Wishing you the best, I invite the moderator of this series of the webinar, Sarish Bhattacharya, to take over what promises to be a memorable discussion. And before that, I would also like to share with you the recent video that I just got from the Delhi, newly formed Delhi Catering Fraternity. And this video is really showing the work that the entire our restaurant sector is doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a short video which the catering fraternity had prepared, and we thought we will share with you because the catering fraternity has been a big supporter of the India International Hospitality Expo. Thank you, Rakesh sir, for your I think you sort of set the mood and set the ball rolling for the discussion. Um, Before we move, Anurag, what is the latest number of meals you have served so far?
I think till yesterday it's close to 32 lakh meals.
32 lakhs, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
I think
3.2 million roughly.
So 50 lakhs or 5 million is not very far away.
No, I think today we are registering a run rate of almost 200,000 meals a day.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I think, yes, it's not looking very far away. I
Right.
remember when we first started talking about it, looked like one pipe dream, but
Yeah.
looks like,
I think
we will get there fairly soon.
at this rate you'll reach 10 million, I think. That's fantastic.
Let's say it all depends on how long the lockdown goes.
Right.
Support of the people in terms of donations.
Right. And, we're very privileged to have Zoravar, Varun, AD, Riaz, and Pushpa, who are all in their own ways participating in this movement. I know DLF Foundation has been doing a lot of good work in this area. And Zoravar has, of course, and Varun, they've been independently and in association with the NRAI doing their own bit, a lot of it actually, to serve the people in need. And AD, you have been associated with some organizations. Can you, for a minute, tell us about them? AD, please unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Suresh, so the Olive Group, some years back, we started an initiative called Kitchens Against Hunger, where at some of our restaurants, we put 10 rupees on the bill for every customer and add 10 rupees from our side. And we would give that entire corpus to NGOs which were feeding particularly children. That was our focus. Now, when this has happened under the NRAI's Feed the Needy umbrella, I thought that what I could best try to do was raise funds for NGOs and organizations that are trying to feed the needy. And I've been doing that through all my different groups, social media, etc. And we've been routing the funds directly to an initiative started by our local partner and my nephew in Hyderabad and our local partner in Bangalore called Youth Feed India, which is also fed, just like Anurag said, about 35 lakh meals so far through local NGOs, through local vendors, giving food packages to families. So I'd say that the total, result of what NRI is able to do in terms of feeding is even more than 33 lakhs because we're able to finance many more NGOs.
That's right.
Helping in the same cause as well.
Right. Fantastic. So, we know from the experience of Varun and Zoravar, you have been working non-stop at it. And Riaz, anything particular you would want to add before we kick off the discussion?
No, I mean, I must admire the fine job that everybody has been doing in the time of the crisis. I think a big salute. I think, it is a time to come together more than ever before. And I'm just glad that so many people have opened up their hearts and opened up their kitchens and, opened up their wallets and contributed, and for which we are eternally grateful. No one should have to go to sleep hungry.
That's right. That's a very, very, very fine thought to share. So now let's come to the brass tacks, and the biggest question that is challenging all of us, and Zoravar, let's begin with you. How do we get people to come back to restaurants? I see a crisis of confidence today. How does one challenge it post lockdown, post the time when restaurants are allowed to open?
Yeah, I think, Suresh, that's, I think, the most pertinent question. That's why a record number of people have actually joined in. A lot of it on our part is going to be based on information that we've got from various authorities, from where we've seen lockdowns end, studying the China model, etc. But let me begin by talking about the industry a little bit. I think all of us here, most of the people that have joined are probably in some way, shape, or form engaged with the industry. The restaurant industry is actually very, very important. We contribute almost 2% to the country's GDP. We are the second largest employer of human capital in India after agriculture. 7.3 million people in just the organized sector. More people are being added continuously. So I think it's a very, very important industry. And what it's facing right now is an existential crisis, a crisis of epic proportions that requires immediate action if a lot of people are to see light at the end of the tunnel. And at this point in time, you're absolutely correct. The biggest focus should be on when the lockdown ends, how do we get people back in restaurants? And I think it's purely going to be based on the perception of safety, on how secure people feel when eating out. You see, in the past 1 month, a lot of people have become master chefs at home. So a lot of people think they've developed some really good cooking skills. I saw a meme the other day where they showed a line. In fact, Riaz forwarded it to me, showing like several thousand people standing in a line, and the headline read, "After the lockdown, the list of people applying for MasterChef." So, a lot of people are going to end up cooking at home. Cooking at home might become our biggest competition simply because of the perception of safety, and restaurants will have to work really hard. I mean, at the end of the day, no good meal, no matter how much you love the food of a specific restaurant, are you going to compromise your health over it? So I think there will be a uphill task, or there'll be a lot of effort having to be put in by restaurants. We'll have to do a lot of technical innovations, contactless food being served to the tables, contactless deliveries being introduced, ordering happening through people's own phones, disposable menus for that matter. Social distancing is going to play a very key role in the restaurants. Let's be very clear. If you have a 100 capacity restaurant, there's no way the authorities will allow us to run it at 100 covers, and we don't want to either because we're very careful about the safety of our employees and our patrons. So you're going to have guidelines restricting the number of people that can walk into the restaurant at any time. You'll have kitchen guidelines where I'm sure social distancing norms will be introduced. So you'll have much fewer chefs in the kitchen to ensure their safety, which is obviously, again, of paramount importance for us. So you might have reduced menus. Naturally, if the number of chefs in the restaurant are less, you'll have smaller menus, you'll have more concise menus. Overall, it'll be a battle of perception. Those restaurants that can create a perception of safety and hygiene through various norms. We, for example, are going to be doing a lot of measures. We've already started training internally within our staff about the post-COVID era tactics they'll have to use in the kitchens and in the front of house offices. We're going to also start perhaps live streaming all our kitchens on the web. So when people want to see what's happening in which kitchen of ours, it's available for them live streamed.
That's an interesting point, this live streaming of the kitchens, because I think people, when you talk about contactless service and all, people get very confused. They don't know, they wonder what, are we going to deal with robots or what,
Remote control cars. Remote control cars to take food to the table. No, I'm joking. No, obviously the food will have to be delivered to the table. I mean, but it can also be done at distance. Special trolleys can be introduced. The masks can be worn. Masks can be, sanitization at the table. You see, one of the key things is when you do the table turn, the sanitization that you need to do before the next guest occupies that table is going to be critical. So a lot of tech will be used for that. Obviously there are spray guns available, all that kind of stuff to sanitize the environment, but also maybe things like, and I'm this is pure conjecture here, I don't know if this even works, but things like UV, screening machines that can perhaps show where there are any perhaps bacterial spots. So a lot of technical innovation, but I think contactless, and again, I'm talking about the short term. Please be sure that I'm talking about the short term. I would assume this whole pandemic would be taken care of within 12 to 14 to 18 months max. After that, we are all social people, right? Humans are, very social at our DNA level. We love hanging out with people. We love going out, having a nice bar, mingle. That will return after 18 months. But yes, for the first year for sure, or maybe at least the next 6 months. And again, this is pure conjecture here, right? We don't know how soon the vaccines will be created and all of that. But the fear psychosis will take over. And let's be very clear. I'm a restaurateur. Would I jump out on the 4th of March if the lockdown ends to rush to my nearest restaurant? Maybe not. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'll first wait to see what kind of, safety and hygiene norms people are undertaking. But one of the key...
I'll just move to Pushpa, because she's an aggregator of restaurants in a way, because last count, I think DLF restaurants at 200 restaurants. And, so what Zoravar is talking at, and Pushpa, please unmute yourself. Keep unmuting yourself. What Zoravar is talking about, the various responses he's taking at micro levels, at a level of a restaurant. I mean, even he has a restaurant chain, but what are the precautions you're taking at the mall level? Because malls have much larger footfalls, and they affect restaurants as much as people walking into restaurants.
Right. So yes, these are times where we think out of the box. So as we speak, the way I look at this entire, can I call it the entire episode that's happening to the world currently, I would like to term it as an episode. It is not going to be a permanent feature, first of all. And I think one thing that we need to understand is that we need to be a little bit more resilient and patient. And I'm very confident that consumers will come right back. So when I look at how this thing is going to unveil itself post-lockdown, we're looking at three eras, three developments that happen. One is we'll all have to get used to the new normal. And the new normal is, there'll be a restarting of the new normal when we all, consumers will very gingerly look at going back to their normal life, to work. Please understand, first of all, people have to get used to going to work. And at work also, it's going to be more of a team A, team B approach. So you will have, in spaces like Cyber Hub, possibly fewer people going there a day. But when they are going to be going to eat on a mission or shop on a mission and be back. They're not around. That's the first thing that we have to see. And we believe, and I've been looking at a lot of our Chinese experiences, what's happening in China post-COVID. What's happening there is that people go to buy luxury or the restaurants, but they're going on a mission. Their target time is not more than half an hour and they're out. So what does it translate for us as mall developers, as people who have restaurants in Cyber Hub? We need to create situations where consumers come in and they have understood that they are being completely sanitized. Every employee is sanitized there. They need to have proof to know that they are sanitized. I think the telling of proof will be giving them confidence. Then slowly there will be a word of mouth that yes, this place seems to be taking more care vis-a-vis the others. So what are we doing in DLF malls? We are preparing a series of mall preparedness, new norms, where we are going to the extent of saying, even if there is a sale in a particular store, we're going to mandate the number of people who will enter that store. We will look at how many people can go into a particular restaurant because it's good for everyone concerned. And as I heard the other panelists talk about it, this is a collaborative effort. There's no one single answer. A developer will not have the only answer. It's going to be, to build consumer confidence today, we're going to have to work more closely than ever before to build that confidence. Now, when it's new normal, new start confidence in a restaurant space, to me, and here I'm talking more as a developer as well as a consumer, I'd like to know when I go into a restaurant, is the chef sanitized? Is the chef not having COVID or symptoms? So if I get a buy-in, and I like Zoravar's idea of live streaming, but it's even better if someone's serving something on my table, I'd like to see the lesser number of people who are contacting my food or preparing my food, the better. So I'd like to understand as a consumer, who is this person? Is this person having any COVID symptom or not? That gives a little bit of satisfaction, confidence building. And also, I think we as developers, we'll need to go ahead further into creating platforms for all the restaurateurs to get, digitized menus, and everything can be QR coded these days. So if the consumer gets his app on his phone, where he can just order from any of the restaurants here quickly and is able to take an offer of takeaway or dine in and is able to pay immediately through her phone or his phone, which is sanitized, she'll be that much more feeling safe.
In fact, Pushpa, I think my menu in Dubai has already developed the software for such an application.
Yes.
Where people will have to, I mean, the favorite, they download the menus of the favorite restaurants,
Yes.
and then they can pre-order and just go to the restaurant as a meal. You know?
Absolutely. So we are talking to such a technology partner. And hopefully post-COVID, we will actually send out this mail to every restaurateur in our space to say, please, this is a great way. Plus, of course, the social distancing norms, just not inside the restaurant, even externally, we'll have to create the line spaces, ensuring social distancing, the way they're doing in China quite well. And, you know, the first 3 months are going to be crucial.
Right.
Once this restart, I've divided it into 3 phases, just bear with me. Restart is when I talk about 3 months, where we have to induce consumer confidence. And that is going to be a slow, but a very sure path. After that, there will be something called a new revival. Because by then, restaurateurs, I think, are the most innovative people. They are very creative. They would have found out more creative ways by, you know, post these 3 months and come up with very innovative short menus, which are possibly menus which are which require very less human handling. You know, handling is the piece that I think we will have to be careful with. And over the next 6 months, if we have spaces where it's not a COVID hotspot, touch wood, things are going well, consumer confidence is bound to come back. Consumers are essentially very, very social creatures. They have been used to a certain thing. There's a pent up spending that's waiting to happen, but we need to give them assurance on health, wellness, and safety.
You know, Riaz, that brings me, Riaz, can you unmute, please? That brings me to a question, because now, like, for instance, your big brand today is social. And social is all about people, you know, like at any time you have, it is full of people, you know. And once, you know, I don't like the term social distancing, because I don't want us to be socially distant, but physically distant, you know. So physical distancing may actually affect your business, you know. If, say, instead of having 200 people in your social at any given point, if you have to keep only 70 people, how would you cope with this loss of business or loss of footfalls?
No, I think that restaurant businesses, as most people on this panel know, and I'm sure everybody in the audience understands, that the fixed costs are very high. So that means that your operating costs become extremely expensive. So restaurants start becoming unviable. You know, if they do about 70% of their original businesses, they already start making losses. So, you know, we will have to find new models. You know, I think the old suppositions that were made and the old assumptions were made are no longer valid. We will have to find new models to definitely try and make this work. There's a lot of employment that we generate, which we tend to lob outside as contract or gig economy, for example. I think we need to try and figure out ways of how we can provide employment to our own people, which means our housekeeping staff, our valet staff, even delivery fleets. I think we need to try and make sure that we keep those people together. That is very, very important for us. The numbers will be a challenge, and I think for the next 1 year, 18 months, we will have to work with our partners in every way, create new partnership models to make sure that we at least conserve the value of what was created, because there will be a time when the virus will go away. But for that short duration of period, which will be there, that 1 year speed bump, so to speak, that we will have in our careers, we have to find ways of preserving value for everyone. We have to find ways of preserving jobs. We have to find value, ways of preserving, you know, the spaces that we've created and the kind of mood that we've, you know, towards consumerism, which will be subsided. There'll be lower liquidity. People will have, we'll be constantly worried also about, you know, their jobs and cash flows. A lot of people are going to be taking pay cuts. So discretionary spending is anyway going to go down. So I think the toughest challenge for a restaurateur right now is just to basically try and, you know, not lose money for the next year or so as much as possible and try and conserve value.
But how, you know, because someone has asked this question also, a person, the person name is Sanjay Chawla. And he asked, how are you going to cope with the financial implications of physical distancing? If you have, say, a third of your, normal patrons, instead of 200, as I said, if you have 70 patrons, if that is all that you're allowed, then how are you going to cope with the loss of that 130 patrons who will be denied admission to a social?
We'll have to find ways to be more efficient, right?
Right.
Uh, anyway, we as Indians are spoiled when it comes to service expectations, right? We, we,
Right.
we look up, we expect to see some smiling host trying to, if our glass turns is half empty, it'll get
Yeah.
topped out. There's constant interaction between the customers and the waiting staff. I think
Yeah.
that and we have specialized. There'll be bussers, there'll be people who are only captains, who only take order. We have cashiers, we have bartenders, who only do drinks. I think
Right.
that era will stop. I think that era of specialization, and I think that everybody will have to start multitasking. I
I think which
remember
is
in my college days, I used to work. My first taste of restauranting was actually when I was trying to pay off my tuitions, and me and another guy were handling a 60-seater restaurant, and
right.
just two of us in the front of the house, and there were three people back of the house, and that was it. Right?
Right.
So I think that at some level we are going to have to kind of get used to. Anyway, people want less. We want to protect our staff from the customer, and the customers also from the staff from cross
Right.
contamination. So we will have to start using less staff. We will have to come up with innovative models like that to make it financial. Of course, will be and the cost of doing operations will go up slightly because of all the protection
Right.
that we will need. So the model will have to change a little bit. We'll have to tweak them. Menus will have to get shorter. Timings will may perhaps get shrunk. Yesterday, I was on a panel. We were talking about how we get an intense focus on leisure hours, right? Opposed to and try and compress everything into that, because a big challenge with malls is that the shopping ends at 9 o'clock and the restaurants start at 9:30, and there's
Right.
a big gap. And so there's kind of, you're walking into a mall, there all the shops are closed, but you're trying to get to a restaurant. So is there a way of trying to kind of bring that together a little bit more sharper, so that the hours are compressed, we can do better, to be a lot more efficient. I think efficiency will be the name of the game in the future.
Yeah, and I think this point, I think there is a case for malls to revise their hours. I think right now there's a clear disconnect between the shopping and the dining hours. I think we'll come back to Pushpa about this. No, Anurag, have you, as an association, have you done any analysis of the cost it will take to do all the things that Zorawar and Riaz have and Pushpa have maintained, all the kind of physical distancing and sanitary requirements that will have to be implemented? How will that affect the top line? So say the spendings of the expenditure of restaurants. How will it affect the spending side of a business?
So I'll begin by saying that right now to come up with any concrete solution is very unlikely, because unless we know the complete effect of the problem, unless we diagnose the problem completely, we cannot be giving out solutions. That's why when I hear about contactless dining or this hygiene, that hygiene, it will all depend on so many other unknown variables, Harish. It will depend on how soon is the antidote found for this virus. It will depend on how long will this last. And even after the lockdown is over, how long will be that invisible fear of corona in the air last in the minds of people? So I think it is very premature to say that these are the concrete steps to be taken. Having said that, there are a few things which are very, very clear now. One thing is, there will be the main messaging from restaurants to the consumers will move from product to hygiene and safety. That's a given. And number two, I think while we are talking about how to grow the business, I think it will be very important for every stakeholder in the F&B business, food service business, to come together for a singular purpose of saving the industry. And I don't want to sound like a doomsday predictor, but this is the reality. If we don't come together, and all the relationships between everyone in the ecosystem, whether it is restaurant and its customers, restaurant and its staff, restaurant and the landlords, restaurant and the aggregators, restaurant and everyone, if that is not realigned, you will not be able to save the industry. So I think what we will need to agree upon is that this industry, and in the interim, we all need to come together to make sure it lasts, it remains. And this has to be a collective effort. And as I said, as things unfold, we will know what exactly can be done to instill that confidence in the consumers. Today, we can talk about anything, Sarish. We can talk about, this contactless dining or a robot coming in or any effort matter. Any. The only concrete thing that I can hear is what Riaz was talking about. That is about you need to reduce your fixed operating expense and convert some of them further into variable. That's the only way you will be able to sustain yourself. And that's all I would like to say at this stage. Because it's very premature to say this is the concrete solution.
Sarish, if I may add to that.
Yeah, actually I was coming to you only. Yeah, please continue. Yeah.
Sarish, so far as, of course, as Anurag's pointed out, there's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen. But all of us, of course, have to plan for how can we best meet it. So what our company is doing, we're going through all of our restaurants' P&Ls, trying to figure out what would be the likely sales once we resume, once phase one is over. We are pretty much ruling out all bar nights, all crowded Friday, Saturday nights, all parties, corporate bookings, etc. And then of the balance a la carte sales, we're taking a percentage. For now, I'm looking at about 65% of sale. I know that's high. And then adjusting it up and down depending on where we feel strengths or weaknesses. And based on that sales, we're then thinking, okay, in terms of rent, for example, with people like DLF, etc., what's the best way that we can all collaborate together to last for a long time? And the NRII, we're discussing that question a lot, and our group is discussing that. I'm sure the malls are discussing that as well. And we all have to find a solution that'll work for everybody long term. And then, of course, we're looking at the biggest, the elephant in the room, which is the HR cost that we all have. We've all built up our teams. We are very loyal to them as they are to us. They're the backbones of our companies. But how do we go forward? This is the hardest thing for all of us, and where I think most of us are spending our sleepless nights.
AD, do you see people will lose jobs? I mean, that is, I think, a given. I mean, because if you're talking about shorter, smaller menus, if you're talking about rationalization of, human resources, you're talking at people, you're actually boils down to people losing jobs. So and I don't see much, I don't see new restaurants coming up, at least in the next year and a half.
I really hope so, because on top of everything else, more and more competition would make the job much harder. I think in terms of losing jobs, I think for most of us, all our management has been very proactive and supportive to their companies and their brands, have taken pay cuts. In our cases, management is not taking any pay during the lockdown. I think I'm seeing that far and wide. And then at certain levels, they're taking pay cuts so that the company can focus whatever revenue we will get on those who need it the most. Even then, will we have to retrench? The truth is we will have to, because we'll not be able to survive without being able to really tighten our costs on both rent, of course, and HR. In rent, it is collaborating with the people like Pushpa and others. And with HR, those are the tough calls. Riaz gave one good suggestion. or if we can retrench all outside people that we're using and reskill our people to serve some of those, we can save some jobs.
Right.
But yes, Suresh, that is going to be one of the hardest things that we all have to do.
Right. Right. So, Varun, coming to you, one solution that in fact a lot of people are asking, I mean, cloud kitchens have suddenly become the flavor of the season, Varun, could you unmute your mic, please?
So I actually want to
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, now, you make your point, but the specific question I wanted to ask you is that, you wear two hats. You're a restaurateur, you're also a big caterer, and you have your cloud kitchen too, cloud kitchen setup. Now, given that, do you think restaurants will have to increasingly look at this mixed model to function, to go ahead? And what is the future of cloud kitchens that you see?
So I want to just expand this question a little bit, and we were discussing, post the bloodbath, what is next, right? I would just like to start by saying that with every crisis, I feel there is an opportunity, right? I mean, I don't see this as anything different from film cameras changing to digital cameras, right? There was an entire shift of an industry. I think the faster we understand that our generation, a generation younger than us, is shifting to online consumption, the better we will be able to kind of navigate this stress, which is there right now. I think we'll have to work with people like mall developers. So I'll just give an example. So supposing you are, wanting to go to a mall, during this coronavirus period, and you don't want to spend too much time within the mall, yet you want to go to, Zara, you want to go to Yum Yum Cha. You can actually, the mall can help develop an app where you can actually look through all the restaurant wait lists, the restaurants that are available, go through the menus on the app, the mall app, and kind of decide, okay, I want to put myself on this wait list. Before you even enter the mall, okay, fine, I want to try these 3 things from Zara. I want to order these 2 things or see these 2 things at, Yum Yum Cha, so that the time spent in a restaurant will go down from, let's say, 1 hour to 30 minutes, yet the experience will be what it was. I think the younger generation is already consuming on their phones, right? Similarly, if we are sitting at home, and cloud kitchens is a part of sitting at home, using your brand, we've all developed such amazing brands over the years. I think leveraging those brands is important. Sitting at home, if I can order from a restaurant, which exists in a mall, why not? I might go out twice. I might, call in twice. We used to go out for movies. Netflix is today larger than Exxon Mobil. I think many years ago, I was just looking at the most valuable company in the world. Exxon was actually the most valuable company in the world not too long ago, 15 years ago. Today, Netflix is more valuable than Exxon. And just obviously it's a situational thing. Oil prices are down. People are watching more Netflix today, but I don't see this time being any different from times that other industries have had to face. So I don't think cloud kitchens itself is a solution. I think cloud kitchens are very important. I think it is very important to enhance your brand with a cloud kitchen. I also think that cloud kitchens will actually go through a negative. The negative is you can't see them. A restaurant kitchen is something that you can see. In our restaurants, we actually have open kitchens. I wear both hats, so I can actually talk about both things. I definitely do not see the consumption in a restaurant, in a cloud kitchen as much as a restaurant kitchen. And that being said, I believe we are one of the highest revenue cloud kitchens in the Delhi region. So I'm not speaking from I'm speaking from a position of strength, not from anything else. So Noshi does extremely well. It does sometimes more revenue than some restaurants, but I think restaurants, leveraging the restaurant brand, being able to see what you can eat at a restaurant, having retail spaces, not just as a space, but almost as an advertisement. People used to talk about a brand opening in Fifth Avenue, New York, never being profitable. It's never going to be profitable. but it is for the branding. It is for being able to consume at home. You've got to see the product in person, right? So I think they have to go hand in hand. Even in catering, for that matter, if you are going to attend a wedding, if you can see the menu on your phone first and decide what you're going to eat, you know, okay, I'm going to just spend 40 minutes at this wedding. I'm not going to spend 4 hours. You know, I can see the entertainment. I can see what food there is. I can learn a little bit about, you know, people go to weddings, they don't even know what the bride and groom looks like. So maybe a photo of the bride and groom will help as well. But you know, so I think we have to look at it as an opportunity. I think we have to work together. I think we'll have to figure out how to change this industry going forward.
So you have to, I think the bottom line is to come up with newer business models. I think that is what the industry has to. Immediate, of course, effort will be to get the sanitary and hygiene aspects of the business.
But
right.
those are basics. I'm just saying, just a very simple thing that people will spend now 30 minutes at a restaurant versus an hour at a restaurant, right? How do you address that? You as a restaurant have to be better prepared. You should enable people to order upfront. You know, they should know what they want to eat. And if you're at a retail store, for example, it's not that difficult to say, I want to try these 3 dresses before you walk into the store. Why do you have to? You can browse online. Do all the browsing you want in your car, online, at home, when you wake up, and then when you actually go, it's for the point. It's for a pointed transaction. Yes, experiences will become shorter. But if you know, people spend 30 minutes at a restaurant versus an hour, I would say maybe more people can come into the restaurant. Less people can sit at one time. But if you move them out faster, you can maybe churn more.
So have a higher turnover time, basically. Lower turnover time. Or higher.
No, higher. It would be a higher turnover time. Lesser time spent at restaurants. But the end product and result is the same thing. You know, so people are increasingly going to restaurants to eat also. It's not just, of course, a lot of bars and restaurants are social, but people want to go out twice, thrice a week. If they know they can get in, get out, you know, very fast, they know it's hygienic, things like live streaming of the kitchens, they know how your food is being made. It might even become something quite interesting that I order a dish and I can see it being made, you know, right as soon as I order it. My phone can be personalized to my dish being made in the kitchen. So we'll have to use technology. I mean, it's an uphill battle, but I think that the industry will change. And I think this is just become a catalyst for the industry to change. You know, what had to happen in 10 years will happen in 2.
Right. So, Anurag,
I would just like to comment on this one, sorry. I'm actually a little sick and tired of hearing that restaurants can do delivery and you know, it doesn't work like that, guys. It honestly, restaurants cannot become profitable by doing home delivery at home. We are not set up for those costs. It doesn't add up, right? And also, it is actually more expensive to do delivery because the cost of discounting, discovery, and delivery, right? These 3 things, which is what the aggregators do, cost 35%. Whereas on a high street, you would pay 20% for these kind of solutions. Right? So, I mean, this kind of fallacy, which is kind of perpetuating itself, and this is, you know, the policy makers are thinking about. You know, the restaurants are about the home delivery and they make money. I think that is one narrative that I want to really, really back away from. And listen,
I think this is a very important point you're making.
Yeah, delivery is a kitchen replacement. It is not a social replacement. And you're actually going to delivery because you want to eat food at home and you're fed up of home food and you want to spice that up. You're getting a kitchen, so that is what being. But the social aspect of the restaurant, let's not forget. I mean, you know, there are QSRs and, you know, brands like Varun which do phenomenal turnover and people go there with the express intention of eating. But there are also people who just don't want to go in and out. They want to linger on their meals. They want to enjoy the conversation. So, I mean, we have to think about what's going to happen to that kind of consumer, which is not just going there for the food, but also going for the social. And delivery is not a magic bullet. That's all I want.
Yeah, I agree. And Suresh, I want to add to this point. You know, if you look at the math, firstly, I completely agree with Riaz that delivery is no way going to mitigate or counter the loss of sales. Usually in the best of restaurants, and I'm talking about barring Domino's, who's obviously majority of the sale is from delivery, you don't get more than 30%, and I'm talking about the best of restaurants, only 30% of your revenue would come from delivery. And I'm talking about literally less than 1% of all restaurants in the world would probably have 30%. Most restaurants would vary between 10 to 15%. Let's assume that the sales after the lockdown go down to 25%, which is the case in China. I've been studying China on a daily basis. There's been huge, it's the largest consumption society in the world, especially.
Yeah, exactly.
And the government has been pushing heavily, literally advertising, showing their party people, the Communist Party people going out and eating, showing that it's safe, propagating, how easy it is to create propaganda in China. Despite that, they're only at 25% of original numbers. In some good days, they're about 40%. And this is I'm talking about a city,
You're talking about occupancy.
Country, about a country. I'm talking about footfalls in restaurants and retail in general.
That's terrible.
And you're talking about a country where people don't ever cook at home. Even breakfast is eaten out. The highest eating out in the world is in general in Southeast Asia, and especially in China and Hong Kong and those kind of places. So there's no way that delivery is going to... Yeah, and they made strict, social distancing norms in the restaurants. We've seen food courts with red tapes on them, where they've shown an aerial photograph where literally half of the food court has got red tapes on it to ensure social distancing, which is important. We agree with that. The fact is, delivery, even in the best of cases, for the best of us, is not going to go over 20-25%. It still means you've got a delta of about 30% from original numbers. And trust me, we're the most razor-thin margin industry in the world. We're also the highest mortality rate industry in the world. 90% of all restaurants that open shut down within the first year. 96% shut down within 18 months. And the single biggest reason is undercapitalization. We're undercapitalized, low barriers to entry. Anybody can enter. AD said, hopefully no new restaurants don't open in the one and a half years we're going forward. I hope that's true too, because the last thing we want is another variable included into the equation. It's very important to understand that dine-in will never be fully mitigated by any of the things that we're talking about. We could open cloud kitchens. We could open, do more delivery, reorganize our kitchens to, produce more cuisines. For example, a Farzi Cafe might start serving papaya food as well to get economies of scale, but it's not going to cover that up. However, at the same time, the hope is that this is a short-term scenario, and eventually it is giving us, like Varun also said before, every crisis offers an opportunity. It offers the restaurant and the travel and the hotel industries an opportunity to reboot, an opportunity to rationalize costs, to look at every P&L item, and basically look at other ways to bring down costs so your break-even reduces. Food cost is going to go up. Let me be very clear. Your food cost is going to go up, not down. You're going to have to spend more time dealing with your vendors to ensure they are safe. We already do this. We have our food safety and hygiene department go to vendor locations to check on things. That'll increase. If you were doing spring cleaning or deep cleaning twice in a week, you're going to have to do it every day. You're going to have to spend a crazy amount of money on Diversity, which is the company we use for chemical cleaning, sanitization. You're going to have to spend a lot of time on IT. You're going to have to buy the software. Nobody's going to touch a menu. I'm not going to touch a menu. I'm either going to use it on my phone, use a QR code, or use a disposable menu that I'll tear after I use. So the costs actually of doing business are actually going to go up. The footfalls are going to significantly reduce. The cloud kitchens, which we'll all have to augment our businesses with, are going to cover some of the losses, or rather reduction in revenue. Definitely not all of it.
So I think that's a very good, AD, I'll come to you because I think one issue that is still not addressed is fine dining. Do you think this new market scenario will lead to the end of fine dining, or will it create opportunities for fine dining? Because fine dining anyway follows physical distancing norms, menu anyway is limited, Do you think it's possible?
So, Suresh, we are hoping, and I think as Riaz was saying, in the end, man is a social beast. We'd like to go out, we like to mix, we like the experience is important. And especially to the customers of brands like Olive, like Indian Accent or Masala Library, places where the experience is really special. I think the value of that will continue to be there for people. And as the scale wears down, I think the percentages there can be higher
Right.
than in more, mass
I think,
markets.
I get the feeling that there may be a case for more fine dining restaurants opening in this scenario of physical distancing. Do you think it's a viable proposition, or like what do you think about the
Well, so
future of
the
fine
issue,
dining?
Suresh, is that I think, as everybody's been saying,
Mm,
people's spending power will be reduced.
mm,
And as Zorawa said right now, with all our costs going up
mm,
and up, the fine dining restaurants, or what we mainly have are casual fine dining restaurants, I think we'll find it hard to even maintain the prices that we did before.
right, right,
With social distancing and costs going up, that's very tough.
right.
And I think with people, even those who want experiences, will they be able to spend? I'm sure many will, but the numbers will drop.
Mm,
The question is, how far will they drop it?
right,
Can we live through that? That's
right.
what we got to see.
And so Anurag, that brings us, because you're the industry spokesperson, and so what kind of drops in numbers you see? How many restaurants do you see going out of business?
I think right now everybody's shut. Once the
Yeah,
government announces the lockdown getting over, we'll know how many have survived this.
yeah,
But very importantly will be to see how many survive for a few months after that. Because
yeah,
as every panelist is saying, let's not beat around the bush. I
mm,
mean, the business volumes are going to be much lower than what
mm,
anybody has ever seen. People are giving examples of China. China is probably trading at 30%, despite the fact that Chinese eat out 28 times in a month, Indians eat
right,
out 4 times. So I think one thing is very, very clear, that the business is going to be very tough.
mm,
Now, the only way to manage that is to bring down your costs and
right,
have some ability to fund losses in the
mm,
immediate term. Now, for both
right,
these things, I mean, you cannot be beating around the bush. You need to bring down all your fixed operating expenses. We
right,
restaurateurs will have to look at the number of people that we employ, the way they are utilized, the hours that are used, and make sure that comes down. Every
right,
landlord will have to look at moving to a more sustainable variable model. There is no other
right,
way out. We will have to look at controlling our fixed expenses on utilities. I know it is very difficult. It's easier said
right,
than done. Whether there is 30% chance occupancy or 100%, you still need to keep your ACs on. I
right.
understand all that, but this is really, I'm talking of brass tacks. If we don't address these issues, then everything else is very ornamental, very, what I call very theoretical things to say. We need to look at the immediate problem, and the immediate problem is survival.
Right.
For survival, the immediate issue is to bring down your fixed operating costs, because there is no way you can really direct the level of the business today. You cannot
Is,
up the
is
business.
NRA working on some, are we creating protocols, or are we creating advisories on survival strategies?
Yes, we have had discussions on both these key issues,
Right.
and there had been some actions on it. It's still work in progress. But
Right.
eventually, as I said, these are the definite yeses that we know that we need to
Right.
do. But as the things unfold, we will know what else needs to be done to eke out
Right.
a survival out of this situation.
Right.
I think, it's great to have. I mean, as much as, I may be sounding like a person who is talking about everything that is negative about it. Let me
Right.
also tell you, I very strongly believe, like people talk about fear of unknown. I think
Right.
I'm somebody who feeds on unknown hope.
Right.
I know nothing seems logically correct right now for us as an
Right.
industry, but I still live in that hope. And
Right.
that hope is the biggest weapon we have right now, other than those moves, which are what I call practical business moves, to
Right.
sustain ourselves. And we will do everything that we can do to advise our members
Right.
on what are the best practices right
Right.
now. One thing is
Okay.
certain,
Yeah. Yeah.
if the businesses go down, so will the jobs, and that's a
Right.
reality again. And
And
if
that's the
businesses don't
reality we have to
survive,
guard
jobs will not
against.
survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Pushpa, you've been hearing everyone, and what. Again, I come back to an original question of mine. You can control. Can you control crowds at a mall? There will be, of course, people. After say 2 months or 3 months. Like even after lockdown, malls, restaurants, and hotels will remain shut for at least another month. After say, so we are talking about people coming after 2 months or 3 months. basically enjoy, you know, do you think, you know, you'll be able to control these crowds from coming in, you know?
Yes, I think that's a very good question, sorry.
Mm.
We're actually working on, I believe there will be a patent, you know, sort of a people have been strapped in indoors and they will want to come out. So it's important for malls to lay out norms of who can come in, how will the screening happen, and how can be entered into the common areas of a mall at any given point. We're going to be doing that very, very stringently and diligently. In fact, I'm looking at coming up with an app solution for this, where we kind of tie in with the Arogya Setu of government's Arogya Setu, and tie in the app through our social media handles to know that this person is self-declared, you know, there's no COVID positivity in the near, you know, history, and hence the person is able to enter and they're screened. Also remember, in malls, we have to do something very diametrically opposite to what we've been doing. No longer can we frisk people. The physical is no longer going to be possible. So we can norms, newer app-based frisking, which will ensure that it is secure as the traditional secure and safe as the new safe. Both these things are important. Then when people go in, we are also looking at having single shift operations. Smart single shift operations. Cyber Hub, which is a restaurant-led space, I would like to collaborate to see what is that smart single shift. Should it be, you know, lunch, which is a little later, 12:30 on to one time. So we will have to come up with innovative collaborative solutions like this, where we will help even the restaurant partners to reduce cost. And are we reducing costs? I completely agree with you. We've been working very hard to reduce our own operating costs. And yes, when we are all, you know, ideally, one would like to ensure that our staff is not the ones whose jobs are on the stake. So we would definitely look at reducing costs at all levels, consumables at all levels. We need to do that in order to ensure that we all survive. The next 6 months is going to be very crucial. The next 6 months is going to ensure that the more cash surplus we allow each other, the better it is for us to survive. Because one point that I'd like to make from a developer point is something very interesting, that for all the restaurateurs here, the next 5 months, 5 years is not going to see any new mall coming up, any new growth happening. People who have already set up the malls are the ones that are going to be there. So what will happen in reality is, post 1 year of this whole, till the vaccine is formed or the consumer confidence is fully in place, the good operators, and I mean here the great brands, will have a great opportunity to have spaces in very, very premium locations around the country, because there's going to be nothing new that will come up for the next 5 years. That's one positive that I see. Now, the other negative that I see in this is the brands, the good brands. Here again, consumers will decide who are the brands who will survive. It will be the consumers deciding, because if they feel that a brand is going to make me feel more safe, it's more wellness oriented, is it more sustainability oriented, brands will go, you know, the consumers will go towards those brands. So the choice of brands today, as we see, an interesting shift. That's the way we look at it, and we think that brands, certain brands are going to be very surprised, pleasantly so, but not in the next, immediate 3 months. Beyond the 3 months, they will be pleasantly surprised, because those brands will suddenly get that spurt that they've been looking at. However, are we seeing some brands actually petering out or dying? Possibly, yes. See, it took, and I also want to make one point here. It took one bad delivery of a local pizza player to stop delivery operations in the entire Delhi NCR. And Domino's Pizza, which is the world's #1 in delivery, had to really scurry up within an hour, pull up its PR machinery and say, hey, we are not the delivery guys, it's someone else. And it turned out to be a local delivery player who may not have had the norms in place as much as a Domino's Pizza. So the point I'm trying to make is, this whole operation will make us all rethink, and consumers will start reorienting their priorities towards brands.
Right. So, Varun, we are sort of drawing to the close of the discussion. So I leave you with the last words for the discussion.
Before you do that,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
can I quickly interject? I apologize for hijacking the question, Varun. I just want to, since you said it's the last question, so I just want to quickly involve Pushpa into this.
The second last.
You know, the reason I want to involve Pushpa into this is obviously she's a very close friend, and all of us here on the panel enjoy a fantastic relationship with DLF. They've always been very forthcoming and helpful. However, what we read, like I said earlier, the industry is facing an existential crisis. We're facing a crisis where a lot of us people, if we don't get immediate support, will not see the end of the road. I mean, there won't be any light at the end of the tunnel. The casualties created by bankruptcies in the restaurant industry could far outweigh even the casualties by the virus itself. So there is a real big problem here. So my question, I guess, to developers like Pushpa is, and I don't want to put her on the spot at all, are you guys willing to, during the period of this extreme stress, come up with a variable rental model to support the businesses in a way that we are at least able to, pass the storm? And once things normalize, and we all know there's going to be a new normal, so we don't know what that new normal is going to be, would you guys be willing to support us till then and rationalize some of our fixed expenses? Because let's be very clear, the biggest expense for all of us, which is fixed in nature, is rental.
Yeah. Pushpa, unmute. Yeah.
So Zorawar, I would start the whole thing by saying that, yes, we are all close friends here. We understand each other's pain. When we say we understand each other's pain, the pain rests on both sides. The only revenue that any developer has is the rental revenue. 90% of the revenue is the rental revenue. Having said that, we also have issues of, bank EMIs to pay as much as you have. We have issues of, the employees who are with us for so many years, over 15 years now. Having said all that, is it a time for us to collaborate more? The answer is yes. Is it a time to have a reasonable approach in the interim period of the next 3 to 6 months? The answer is yes. Is there one single solution or formula that will define it? The answer is no. Actually have to be defined in a very nuanced fashion to understand each of my properties are going to behave differently. Each of the developers' properties will behave differently. That's a reality. So I think it's what I would like to say is that we would like to ensure that the costs that we give towards you or anyone and ourselves would be it will be controlled. It will be subsidized. We will have to come up with a reasonable solution which will help both parties survive in the period of the next 3 to 6 months till consumer confidence is back. Surely, that's how we also look at it. But it cannot be one size fits all. We are all clear about that.
No, thanks for being forthcoming on that.
I want to add. I want to just add one more thing. I think a lot of these malls and places like Cyber Hub started the business models by, let's say, charging a particular rent, or the business plan was made on a particular rent of, let's say, 100 rupees per square foot. I think majority of the players are on revenue share. When the going was good, the developers made tons and tons of money. I mean, if if the business plan was on 100 rupees, at times, you were earning 300 or 400 rupees per square foot as well. Now it's the opposite of that. Nobody anticipated this. So I think one of the things that is very, very important is that, all the brands have also invested very heavily in fit outs. The brands have invested very heavily in these times. And, if the brands have to be around for the next 5 years or 7 years and stay with developers and their projects, I think you need to appreciate the times that were good, the monies that were earned in the good times, and kind of help us reverse that in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, however long it takes for it to revive. And, you rightfully said that it's a partnership with brands and developers, but it's very, very important to give the industry as a whole some kind of assurance. I understand that one size may not fit all, but some kind of a overall strategy for the entire business to stay alive is very, very important. I think that, if you could make it work at 100 rupees per square foot, you can go back to that level for a few months. I think over the last few years, the revenues have been far in excess of the business plan. And I think it's time to reverse that for an interim period.
So I think, Varun, that discussion cannot happen over this large forum.
Sure.
However, I think one thing I can tell you is that we as developers have always stood for partnership. We've always stood for a win-win strategy, and we will come up with that solution. We enjoy a great partnership with you, and we believe that we'll be able to strike some kind of a collaborative approach to tide over the situation. But having said that, we also know that the consumer confidence for superiorly run properties and well-run brands will define the future. If the brands are well-run and they have got that metal, it will define the future. So will there be some collateral damages? Unfortunately, maybe. However, I can tell you that the good developments and the good brands will actually find the going a little better, possibly post the tidying. So all I can tell you is that from a DLF standpoint, we stand for collaboration, we stand for partnership.
Great. I think.
Swarish, before you take up the question.
I think the rest of it should be offline, right?
Yes, please.
Swarish, Swarish, I think one of the main takeaway of the entire panelist discussion is that is the best practices for hygiene and safety. That is very important for all the restaurants in due course. But I think what is the most important issue that if different SOPs or different strategies are taken for the safety standard, that would definitely will not bring that much of the confidence to the visitors. So in my opinion, there should be a common compliance code of the safety and procedure. So there should be a proper standard to be developed. And I would like to share with all the panelists and particularly with Anuragji, and also would like to invite him in NRI, that India International Hospitality Expo and India Exposition Mart Limited has started working on the common compliance code for the hospitality sector, particularly on the safety and hygiene standard. So I request all the panelists later on, we will discuss on this subject, and also would like to invite them in the technical committee of those standards, so that the standard can be adopted on a national level. And as the China is giving the confidence as a government, as a industry bodies, we have to give confidence to the consumers through advertisement, publicity, and other support that restaurants are now adopting the best hygiene procedures and best safety measures. Thank you.
I think that's a very good move. We have to work towards a common compliance mode. In fact, yesterday I was seeing something which a lot of you have heard about Wynn. It's at Las Vegas, big casino hospitality chain. And Wynn Hospitality has come out with a 24-page document on health and other compliances post COVID era. So people are really working hard, and I'm sure all of you are doing that. I think that's one positive thing. Anurag, you had something to say.
I have one small thing to say.
Okay, yeah.
I would like to say this, that tough times, I read this somewhere because we all have the time to read up a little bit. Tough times doesn't define us. Tough times define us. And that's the model that I'm telling everyone.
Tough times don't define us. Yeah.
They don't define us. They have an opportunity to refine us. And I think that's the adage that one needs to take internally. Refine ourselves, refine our business models. Normal.
Very good.
I just
Anurag?
wanted to say a couple of things here, Suresh, before we go. To Pushpa, when she says that we are happy to collaborate, let me assure you on behalf of NRAI that we are happy to talk as well. And second point is, while you say the good brands may do very well in the future, I think to tide over the immediate crisis and to remain alive is more important. And lastly, to everyone, while we will talk as NRAI to the developers, please join NRAI if you want to be heard. That's all I want to say.
Excellent. So, Anurag, you get to make your pitch now. Thank you. And I think we all, in fact, I'm going to join NRAI too. I don't own a restaurant, but I think I should be a member of the.
You'll be honorary member. You'll be honorary member.
Great, thank you.
We will invite you there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
We have Mr. Hari Dadu. A lot of you must be knowing because a lot of you must be sourcing crockery from him. Mr. Hari Dadu is also one of the leading lights of India International Hospitality Expo. Mr. Dadu, आपके कुछ शब्दों के साथ हम खत्म करते हैं आज की कार्रवाई.
धन्यवाद सुरेश जी.
जी.
साथियों, मैं दादू सिरेमिक से एवं फेयर प्रेसिडेंट IHE हरी दादू बोल रहा हूँ. आप सभी का इस पैनल में आने का मैं बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ और जितने भी हमारे मेंबर्स, एनालिस्ट और जो साथी इस वेबिनार में उपस्थित हैं, सबका बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूँ. मैं आपको कहना चाहता हूँ कि जो हम ये वेबिनार सीरीज हमारे जो एक्सपो मार्ट है उसके थ्रू और IHE कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत ही सक्सेसफुली रहा है और एंटायर इंडस्ट्री से बहुत अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स आ रहा है. मेरा आप सभी से आग्रह है कि यदि कोई भी सब्जेक्ट तो कोई भी सजेशन आपका हो तो आप हमें अवश्य बताएं ताकि उस सब्जेक्ट पर हम आगे काम कर सकें. देखिए, कोरोना से जो समस्याएं आई हैं सबको पता है. समस्याएं अभी धीरे धीरे बढ़ रही हैं, इसका कहाँ अंत होगा हमको नहीं मालूम. लेकिन जैसा कि मिस्टर अनुराग जी ने बोला कि प्रॉब्लम की अभी कोई हिस्सा नहीं है और मिस वेक्टर जी ने बोला कि हम लोग बहुत इनोवेटिव हैं, जितनी भी समस्या है सबको समझ लेंगे. मेरा कहना यह है कि देखिए, दुनिया में कोई हिस्ट्री में कभी भी कोई बड़ा डिजास्टर हुआ है तो अब उसको नए रूप में ही हम सबने मिलकर कराए. जैसे मैं 2-3 एग्जाम्पल देना चाहूँगा. फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद जर्मनी बिल्कुल खत्म हो गया, लेकिन हम देखते हैं जर्मनी ने अपने को पूरा रिवाइव किया. सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में जापान बिल्कुल डिस्ट्रॉय हो गया. आज हम देख रहे हैं जापान की स्थिति ग्लोबली क्या है. हम हिंदुस्तान की बात करें, हमारे कच्छ एरिया में बहुत बड़ा भूकंप आया, पूरा कच्छ एरिया डिस्ट्रॉय हो गया. लेकिन आज गुजरात का जितना भी डेवलप मॉडल है वो हम देख सकते हैं कि कच्छ में ही है. कहने का तात्पर्य ये है कि जो समस्याएं आई हैं सारी इंडस्ट्री एक भी होकर उसको अगर हम समझेंगे करेंगे, जैसे सब पैनलिस्ट ने अपना एक्सपर्ट उसमें दिए हैं, मैं समझता हूँ कि निगम समस्या का समाधान कर लेंगे और आने वाले समय में जो भी है सब मिलकर काम करेंगे तो अच्छा समय हमारा आएगा.
धन्यवाद. Thank you. धन्यवाद दादू जी. Thank you everyone. Thank you for making this a very successful webinar for us. We had a big audience, our biggest so far, and it also shows that all of you have so much star power that we can attract the kind of audience we did. Thank you so much and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Questions will be answered through the mail to all the participants. Whatever questions have been raised, we'll be sending the mail.
We have got 123 questions.
Yeah, there are 123 questions, and we'll definitely answer all these questions in consultation with our panelists in due course. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Have a good day.
Thank you, gentlemen, and Pushpa.